So, Walter, how are you?
Yeah, good. Good evening. Hello.
Yes, what time is it for you right now?
Oh, it's 8 p.m.
Nice.
It's 6 hours before you. Yes,
And
it will be. The night is coming now.
yes, did you make cheese this morning?
Yes, together with Armin. Yes,
Yeah.
we make everyday cheese. It's the same thing as every time. The farmers bring the milk and we have to make cheese. And we need the cheese now.
Yes. So tell me about that. You make cheese that is shipped at 8 or 9 months old. So right now you have to be thinking about next year already. Yes?
Yes, this cheese we now produce now. This is for the next January, February. Yes, and then we hope the Corona is forever, and we have to produce now.
Yes. Do you feel like are orders slowing down for you to come out of the cellar right now?
No, we had another problem. We have sold too much cheese last year, and now we have too, not so much cheese, and we have to reduce the delivery for all our customers, and for you too. And no, now it's going on everything. And here in Switzerland, the customers, they ask, did you have more cheese? Is the export not going so good? If that not going so good, have you more cheese for us? But now it's everything okay. But I think in the export, the breaks will come later.
Yes. So at what point do you feel like you will catch up for age in May or June, or when do you feel like the cheese will be back to normal volume for what you have to sell? If you have not had enough cheese now, when will you have all of your cheese ready?
This will going until August, September, I think.
Yeah.
It's going on normally. I have yes, it's going on normally in August, September. And if we have breaks from the export before the months before, we need this cheese in Switzerland.
Yes. And have you seen anything like this before? Or when you made just Appenzeller, did 2008 affect you differently than it does now with making just Challerhocker? Or is it kind of the same? For like seeing the economy maybe going to a bad place, is this harder or easier now that you only make your own cheese?
It's too early to say this.
Yeah.
I can't say this now. And in 2008, I produced, I think, 10% from the volume from Challerhocker as now.
Yeah.
Yes, and by the Appenzeller, this is very different.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, now that we have you here, and I think there are many people watching right now who aren't as familiar with your history, can you tell us a little bit about the last 30 years of the work you've done? You bought the dairy in 1987?
Yeah, my father bought the dairy in 1987. Yes, I began here with the production from Appenzeller the 1st June. It will be 33 years in 2 months.
Wow.
And I was, this was after my military time. In Switzerland, we had 5 months military time for the ground courses. And after this military time, I began here to make cheese in Tuvatril. Yes, this will be 33 years.
Wow. That's amazing. So your father, did he make Appenzeller?
Yeah, but yes, I grew up in the neighbor dairy. Yes, and my father had that dairy, and this dairy in Tufortrill, he bought this together. Yes, and my father he have buys his dairy in 1966, and he produced Appenzeller and a little bit Tilsit on that time. And later in the 70s, he have changed the production of from Tilsit. He changed it to Appenzeller. He produced in the end only Appenzeller.
Okay.
Yes, as we have here. This dairy is founded in 1896. We began to make cheese here in Tufortrill, and they have produced only Appenzeller cheese all the time.
All the time, only
All the time. I didn't know others, as they have produced only Appenzeller cheese the whole time. I began with Challerhocker years later.
Yes. So your father does not make cheese anymore?
No, he will be 79 years.
Well, Swiss
in
people
June.
very hard. Maybe, who knows? So what goes on at that dairy now, where you grew up?
Yes, now in 1999 began my brother with cheese making there. He bought the dairy from my father, yes, and then the father helps us in cheese making in both dairies a little bit. Yes, he was retired.
What does he do? What does he do? Oh, he helped you then, but not now?
Not now, no.
So your brother still makes only Appenzeller?
Yes. We have stopped our production of Appenzeller in 2014, and then we could give our quantity to his quantity. He produced a double quantity now as years before.
So did he take on more milk farmers, or how did he get more milk to make more cheese?
One or two farmers he have more, but other farmers they are growing. They milk more now. They have changed anything. They have the cows they bringing out or so, and have more milk cows in the farms and produce more milk. And the most farmers they are more economic, more more
efficient.
They make more from produce more milk.
Yeah.
Before they can't do that, and now yes. I have a farmer. They produced in the beginning around 50,000 liters of milk a year, and now this year he will bring 300,000 liters.
Wow.
But we have more ground, much more ground. That's
more land to put the cows
more
on.
land to make hay and for the cows. Yes.
So we've heard a little bit about milk price going up over in Gruyere. Is this also going to happen for Appenzeller? And in your region, is milk getting to be more expensive?
Different cheeses or associations from cheeses, they have decided to go up with the price, but Appenzeller don't do that. Appenzeller, they had a long time problem to sell the cheese, and now it's going on very well the last 3-4 months.
Yeah.
And they don't want cut this drive and go up with the price. They say we talk about the price problem next September, October, but now they want going on with this drive they had. They come hung in different shops or in different retailers in Germany, and when they go up with the price, they jump out again.
Yes. Well, and right now, you know, it would be difficult, I'm sure, to make that increase. Well, let's get back to Challerhocker. So you started making Challerhocker in 2000, or what year did you start making it?
The first sample of a cheese I produced in 2000, yes, and out from this cheese, 2001, and from this cheese is born Challerhocker later. But the officially start of production Challerhocker was in February 2003.
Yes. And how much did you make in 2003? Small amount?
I produced 1 day a month, maximum, wow. Yes, maximum 40 cheeses a month. The first year I produced around 460 wheels the whole year. And now I produce this quantity in 8 days.
That's amazing. So what was the big difference? What led you to make Challerhocker? Why not? What was different about it, or what made you decide to do this?
I haven't the idea to make another cheese as Appenzeller. This was, I don't create a new one. It was I made an experiment for my brother-in-law. He have import new cows, Jersey cows, and he want the cheese from the milk from these Jersey cows. And from these cheeses, from this step, is Challerhocker born later. But it's not my experience or my ideas to make a new cheese. This was yes, I don't know, I don't find the right word, but I produced these cheeses for my brother-in-law, and from this cheese, yes, we had an
experiment.
Yeah, from this experiment, it gave the Challerhocker later.
So what did you change when you make Challerhocker than making Appenzeller? Is it the same? What is different and new about it?
The two biggest differences are the fat content, how many fat we have in the cheese, and the aging time. Right. Before, the oldest Appenzeller we know was 6 months. This was the black label Appenzeller. This was 6 months. Now we have a new one, the pink, Appenzeller pink. This is around 9 months. But in the beginning was the biggest difference from Challerhocker and Appenzeller, the aging time and the fat content.
Are those related? Does it age better because it has more fat, or this is just happy coincidence?
The most cheesemaker think this is not so easy to age cheese with more fat, but in my cheese it's great. For my cheese, I think the fat is this creamy end is very important.
Yeah. So do you age it, if you were making Appenzeller and it was very short aged and now you age for 10 months, where do you put it all? Do you have this your house, yes, where the dairy is? So where do you have a huge cellar at the house, or do you send it other places?
Yes, we send it other places. I have a place here in Tuferdrill for 1,500 wheels. And I produce in 1 month now. Last month I produced 1,960 wheels.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, this was a problem from the beginning. And we have close 5 minutes from here or 6 minutes from here, we have two bigger cellars. One is by Stadelmann in Ganterswil, and the other one is by Bündensberg by Bütschwil. You know the cheeses from there. We rent places there. We have in both cellars, we have around 12,000 wheels. Now we have around 12,000 wheels in our both cellars.
Yes. So how long is it so you make the farmers come, you make the cheese. Do you take it to the cellar on the second day or a week later? How often do you take cheese to the cellar?
We after the producing the cheese, we go to the Salzbad. In the winter, 2 days, in the summer, 2.5 days, and after the Salzbad, we go every day. We go with these fresh cheeses to the cellars. We don't wash the young cheeses in our cellar. We haven't time for this. We haven't place for this. And in the other places, in these two cellars, they have robots who made the work.
Yes. And this changed when you changed over to only making Challerhocker, or did this change when you expand? When did you expand your production? When did you get the bigger vat and press?
This was in 2016. But if the cheese aged so long, we stay outside in other cellars since 2005, 2006. Yes. All the time we had other cellars for aging our Challerhocker. We had different places. Begin in 2007, we have the place by my brother for any years, and in different places we looked every time where they have place for our cheese, and we have washed the cheese in the cellars by ourselves.
Yeah. How did you meet? How did we start having your cheese in the U.S.? And Konrad, if you want to join in here, how did you two meet, and how did this whole thing start of having Challerhocker in the United States?
It was, I'm not sure anymore what year it was, but it's pretty long ago. I used to work in a wholesale company, a cheese wholesale company in Zurich. And the owner encouraged me to go and visit Walter. And especially it was that we went to see Walter together with Larry Lucas from Estancia.
Yeah.
And Tyler also. So yeah. That was, I think, the first time that Walter and myself met. And since then, the business has grown quite a bit.
Yes,
I remember. I not too long ago I checked the first invoices that I had from Walter, and it was, I think, maybe once a month for 50 wheels.
Wow,
so that has changed. Yeah,
it's changed
a little bit for sure.
Well, I have to tell you, I often interview when people come up and they ask me what's on the label of Challerhocker. I always think about when we visited Walter, whenever that was, 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, 2014.
Was that 2014? Wow, we were such young kids back then.
Right, young bucks.
So we're in the dairy. And Emilio finally, feels comfortable enough to ask the question he wants to ask, which is he goes to Walter and says, "Hey, Walter, what's with this scary boy on the cheese?"
Right. You're trying to keep people from buying it or what?
Yeah, what's the deal? So I guess since we're all here and we have a chance to actually set the record straight, Walter, what is with the scary boy on the cheese? Who is that?
The story is this. In the beginning, I want to sell the cheese. The first company who have interest for my cheese, it was a cheese, no-name cheese. I hadn't a name. This was a yes, an old aged Appenzeller. I present this customer, and this person said on this time, if we have interest for this aged cheese, but you must bring a name and a label. Yes, that was clear. And I had a friend on that time. He is more creative as me, and I asked him, "Have you an idea for a cheese name for this cheese? A name with a label?" And after 2 days, I got a list with I think 15, 16 names. And he is a painter too. He's not all yes. And he told me, for every name he listed on this list, he have a picture in the head. After 2-3 days, I think, we picked up the name Challerhocker, as we think this is the best one. We say it, this is our name, and he painted this label from his brain. Yes, and this was in the first. This was an old man, and we have discussed over this label, and then he bring the input. I think this must be a younger man. A younger man would be better for this name, for this cheese. Yes, and then it's born. He painted me this picture. Yes, and you know.
Yes.
It was 1 quarter. He made me the picture in 1 quarter, and the boy is in the cellar, and you see he holds with the hands. He holds the stones, the wall. This should be. Should show the boy, the man, the young man is in the cellar. Yes, this is a story from the label, and we didn't think this is scary. This was a young boy, but you are a little bit right, but it's okay.
Yeah, it works. What we say is, if someone comes in and says, I want the cheese with the scary boy, everyone knows what they mean, so it works.
Yes.
It's pretty iconic now.
Yes.
Yeah, very much so. That's great. Doug, do you have any questions that have come in from our our global reach here?
I've got a few. I'll start off with a CMI competitor from San Francisco this past year, Emma Harvey, who's a cheesemonger at Daedalus. Walter, she wants to know if you would ever consider making the 2-year age Challerhocker that they got to try at CMI.
This was only a 2-year aged. Yes, and that was only an experiment. We haven't idea. We haven't spoke over this cheese. We haven't capacity for this cheese. Perhaps in future, but not now.
I had another one earlier on in the day too. Somebody asked, have you ever considered making any other cheese besides Challerhocker? And if you did, what kind of cheese would you make?
I haven't made another cheese in Appenzeller and Challerhocker in my dairy, but a dream would be a blue cheese.
A blue cheese.
Or a soft cheese. But yes, the dairy is too small to make more cheeses or different cheeses. We have to rebuild the dairy and so on, but I think this is not my part now. I'm 52 years, and in the next 10 years, I want to make a good Challerhocker and not other cheeses.
Fair enough. I have 2 separate questions, but related on the same topic. It seems like we have some newer people who are looking to become cheesemakers potentially. So one question was, could you give any advice or guidance for someone who's looking to start becoming a cheesemaker? And a second question was, are you taking any apprentices in the near future?
The second questions I didn't understand.
The second question was, would you ever take somebody to come help you work in the dairy? And the first question was, somebody who wants to become cheesemaker, would you give them any advice?
I could do this, yes. This is, but the real problem is this going in not the right way. It given a way for a person from the US to work in Switzerland in cheesemaking. You can do this, but on the black side from the rules. You understand?
I do. Yes.
That's a real problem.
I had a more lighthearted question. We had somebody ask, what is your favorite white wine to drink? Not necessarily with Challerhocker. I think just what is your favorite white wine?
We have a local producer, and it's a friend from mine and from our family. He produced a nice Müller-Thurgau.
Okay. I had somebody ask, how did you begin cheese making? Was it something that you learned from your family, or something you wanted to pursue on your own? How did you start?
I grew up in the cheese dairy from my father, and we have to help.
Mm-hmm.
I think we was in the dairy during the years. We was small kids and so on, and I think around with 10, I began to help. In the afternoon we have to flip over the cheeses at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and this was our first work we have to do. When we hadn't school in the afternoon, we have to flip over the cheeses at 2 p.m. every day. Yes, this was the first, I think. Or we helped by the pigs in the barn. We have for feeding the whey. We had a lot of pigs by my father, and we had help. We have to help in the barn. And then I made the apprenticeship with. I began with for 15 years, and this apprenticeship goes 3 years. I was in 2 different dairies to make this. We had 1 day school on this time, and the rest we worked in the dairy. And after that time, I worked around. Yes, I worked 9 months. I worked in different dairies. 3 weeks there, 6 months or 4 months there, 2 weeks there. I replaced other persons before I go to the military part, and after the military, I come back here to Tuvertril, or I come to Tuvertril and began here. And with 24, I going to a school for cheesemakers. This was around 11 months I was in this school. And after this school, I could make the master of cheesemaker. And my test for this was in 1992. And since I'm cheesemaker, master cheesemaker. And we have different canals. If you are a master cheesemaker, you are master cheesemaker for every cheese, not as in the US for the cheddar, for cheese curds and so on. We have only our master cheesemaker is the title for you can make every cheese.
Gotcha.
What type of cheese did you make in your apprenticeship?
I made Appenzeller, quarter fat Appenzeller. I make Tilsiter. We made yogurt. We made quark in the first one, and in the second dairy we produced butter and Emmental, the big wheels.
Yeah.
Every day, I think 4 or 5 wheels Emmental.
Wow. What did you think of making, you grew up in an Appenzeller dairy, so what did you think about seeing Emmentaler? Like, what did you think of making that? Was it so very different?
Yeah, yes, production is very different, and the cheeses are so heavy. In the end, these dairies who makes Emmental, they have more technique. It was easier to produce Emmental as Appenzell. By the Appenzell, you have to wash the cheeses. You have plants with 3 cheeses. These are around 22 kilos. You have to handle this. In the Emmentaler dairy, we haven't to flip over the cheeses or so on. We haven't to. I don't find the word. Konrad, to lupfen.
You don't need to lift the cheese.
Yeah, we haven't to lift the Emmental. It was too heavy. Yes, we have lifts. We have everything. We haven't it to lift up with hand. This was much easier. This year was much easier for me as the years before or later in Appenzeller dairies.
That's interesting. Go ahead.
Yes, they have robots. They had robots before we had for our cheese washing. In the Emmentaler dairy, they had before robots for this hard work.
That's in the 1980s?
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. I've seen those big racks they have where the cheeses are stacked and then the entire rack flips upside down.
Yeah.
Those are cool. I want one of those.
Walter, I have another question from the audience. Do you remember any of the other names or pictures from your friend when you were trying to name Challerhocker?
Yes, Walter's dream.
Walter's dream.
Walter's dream was the best other one. We have perhaps you know we have a big mount, felsen, a big rock.
Okay.
If you comes up to Dufertrail, this rock was a name, but it's in Swiss German Felsenkäse.
Okay. It's not behind me, is it?
No, it's behind your back. It's going down there. Yes.
It's amazing that Challerhocker was the easier name to say.
It's kind of incredible.
Yeah.
It's not easier. It's not easy, but easier. Yes.
Easier, yes. Each of you has a long history in food. So what are you, and you're staying at home, what are you cooking right now? Walter, what are you, when you're cooking at home with Challerhocker, what are you making? What are you eating right now?
I never cooking.
Sorry, what is Annalise cooking?
Perfect answer.
The most time we eat Challerhocker for breakfast, or we have guests here for samples, for aperitif. We eat the Challerhocker no cooked normally. Yeah. But we have the cheese. We ruffle. We rip the cheese for pasta, or sometimes we have Challerhocker in the fondue. Yes, that is how we need our Challerhocker.
Yes. And do you normally eat this from the same wheel that you are cutting for your shop customers? Or do you, if one of them gets dropped, is that the one that the family gets to eat?
Sometimes you have a crash in the cheese.
Yes.
You have a hole you don't want to sell, and you take this piece for you. Yes,
Yes.
that's normally yes. But
Yes.
sometimes it's the real cheese. The rest from the cheese is for the customer.
Yep.
Yes.
What about you, Emilio? What's coming home in your backpack that has to stay out on the porch when you get home? What kind of cheese is inside of it?
What's coming home? Well, we eat a lot of different cheeses, and I just feel fortunate that ever since, so my boys are older, 23 and 28, and out of the house, right? So my wife gave up cooking a long time ago. A few years ago when Dante went to college, my youngest, and so now she's cooking again, and it's like, oh, this is the greatest thing.
Yeah.
I love it, but we often eat cheese, and like it's Windermere season, so have Windermere at home, and so I just bring the variety. If it's not the the 1655 or Challerhocker, then it's Parm Reg is always there, and the good little South Philly Italian greaseball that I am, I have to have provolone in my house. Like that's a constant, right? So we're eating that, and but my wife is a big fan of cheese. We've been together 30 some odd years, and so we're eating more now than we ever have because we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, we're drinking a lot of really great wine though too.
We've been experimenting with bread baking, and what we find is no matter how bad the bread turns out, if you put a bunch of burrata on it, it doesn't
Right?
matter.
That's exactly right. Burrata's another one that's so popular, right?
Just basically slice of bread.
So good.
Good.
So good. Yeah.
All right, I have a question that's for Walter and Konrad, and I'll try my best while I ask the question. Somebody asked, can you properly pronounce Teufelsville for us?
I have to pass that on to Walter because he's been living there for his life. So go ahead.
Teufelsville.
There it is. There's our answer.
Swiss German is Teufelsville. And in High German is Teufelswil. Teufelswil is in High German, or Teufelswil is our dialect.
Love it. All right, and then I have another question for you, Walter. This is from Tom Perry of Shelburne Farms, another good friend of ours. He would like to know, Walter, when you come to America, what American cheeses do you enjoy the most? Or do you have any favorites that you like when you're here?
Yes, I have one favorite from the blues is the Aretusa Blue.
And you're not just saying that because I worked for them at one point?
Yeah, I tasted the cheese from you in New York the first time.
Fancy food. Yes,
but the problem is I don't know so many different cheeses from the US. This is one from hundreds, but I tasted, I think, 50 around.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's not.
You just brought home second in the World Cheese Championship, and first was what was first this time? Springbrook. You know Jeremy from Springbrook. It's kind of funny to me that you all do kind of know one another and you have tasted each other's cheese over the years. But when you were here, you were in Chicago last spring and you went to see Andy Hatch for the first time, yes, at Uplands?
Yeah.
What did you think of Uplands compared to what you're used to in Switzerland? Like how does the dairy compare for you?
The biggest difference is they have their own cow. They produce the milk self and then produce cheese from the own herd. Yes, this is the big difference. and they produced in the summer from May to October, November, they produce the cheese, and the rest of the time they haven't milk from their own herd. This is the big difference. And I'm only the cheesemaker. I buy the milk from 10 different farmers and through the whole year. Yes, these are two very big differences from us.
So when you see a business that has to look after cows and make cheese and age cheese, do you think this is, I mean, this would be in so much work, yes? Or do you feel like it changes the way that the cheese making happens?
Yes, for me, this is in the US, the small dairies, they grow up, they come into to the market in the last 10, 15, 20 years. They began sometimes with cheese, with goats, with sheep milk cheeses, with soft cheese, with fresh cheese. They grow up and they produce the cheeses from the own herd. This is very different as in Switzerland. Our history is very, very old, and yours in this cheese making part is very young.
Yes.
And for me is this yes, it's much work, very, very, very much work to do all, to have a herd, to have to do with the animals, and then to milking, and then to make cheese, and later. This is the same thing as we have in the Alps in the summer.
Yes.
This is a little bit the same. You have on the Alps, normally you have 2 or 3 people, they have the herd, they're milking the cows, they produce the cheese, they wash the cheese. Yes, it's a little bit the same. But the normal dairy here in Switzerland, they buy we haven't so many farms, they produce his own cheese. I know the most are Alp cheeses. They have, sometimes they have their own herd on the Alp and produce the cheese from this milk. This is, yes.
Well, if I don't know if there's more questions from out in internet land.
All right, I got a last question. We'll see if anybody else throws one in, but we have a question about the brine for Challerhocker, Walter. Somebody would like to know, do you use wine in the brine wash? They've heard conflicting reports as to what you wash Challerhocker with.
This is no, I haven't. My brine is only a little water with a little bit salt. And the reason is I want the cheese and this flour and the tasting from the cheese, from the milk, from the bacteriums, from the dairy, and not from spaces from outside. This was my first step. I want to do this without herbs or liquids or wine and so on. Yes, it's only a little bit salted water for the brain. And if you wash cheeses, you have bacteriums in it. That's normal, yes.
So we have a definitive answer for everyone.
Yeah.
No.
That's all I got.
We need to update our sheets now, Doug. That's what we can do after the call.
No.
All right. Thank you all so much for taking the time today to come out and just give us a little dispatch from your corner of the world. It's really good to remember that this is something that we're all in together, and we can support one another. And just know, it's just good to see your faces. It's good to see you guys smiling when you can, and healthy, and just finding out what the new normal is going to be. So thank you all for joining us. And if you have anything you'd like to just conclude with, feel free.
Thank you.
Well,
for
thank you
everything.
for doing all this job to sell our cheeses and stay healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you too.
Listen, Doug, Jonathan, thank you for putting this together. This was pretty cool, and I'm glad to have been part of it. Appreciate it.
And you guys will see afterwards. You're getting a lot of love on social media right now. A lot of
Nice.
thank yous coming in, so it's
Well,
much appreciated.
So this is the first Cellar session. As scheduled, we have next week, actually a friend of Walter's, Thomas Berglund
Nice.
from Almus Brook will be joining us. He and Walter go back a few years. You've been to Almus, have you not, Walter? You went to
Yes,
Almus, yeah.
I've been there 3 years, I think.
Yeah. So we're gonna check in with him and see what farmstead dairying looks like in Sweden right now next week. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and be well, and well, I'm sure we'll talk to you all soon. Thank you.
Take care, guys. See y'all.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye, everybody.
See you out there.